Everyone is asking which AI to use, and almost nobody is asking the questions that really matter. I mean, you're trying every model, and you're still not 100% satisfied with the result AI is giving you, and almost nobody can tell you why. See, I use AI every day for content, for outreach, for client work, and after a lot of conversations with founders building in the AI space, I finally figured out what I was doing wrong. So this is my unfiltered advice. 3 things I wish someone told me from day one that would have saved me time and money. And even though the first one is super quick, it's what 90% of you need to hear right now. So most people work from a model first perspective, okay? So a new model drops, you open it up and you start asking it a bunch of questions. What can you do for me? How can you improve X, Y, and Z? In my experience and from the others I've talked to, it seems to be a little backwards. The winners with AI right now work from a problem first perspective. The model is the last decision, not the first, or it's not as important as many may seem. And unfortunately, a lot of us get caught in this vicious cycle where a new model drops and you start thinking, my life is completely going to change. My business is going to improve. My system's going to improve. My workflows, X, Y, and Z completely are going to take off because this new model. And in reality, and it seems to be commonplace that this happens, you start just building a bunch of junk. And let's be honest, you usually don't even end up using half of it. And so what you want to do instead is you want to have a problem first perspective when it comes to AI. And when you do, AI actually starts moving the needle for whatever you're trying to work on. And so I walk people through a framework. It's called PASS. And the reason why it's so crucial, because in AI's current form, AI gives you back exactly what you gave it. And a lot of us, and this is the issue here, a lot of us lack clarity with what we're trying to actually do. And so this is linked down below. Really, before even opening up a model and considering what model to use, you have to understand what problem are we solving for. So what exactly are you trying to solve in one sentence? That is so important because clarity is king here, okay? The more clarity we have, better the result from the model we are going to get. And it's going to save us time and credits, all right? So it's very important that we really distill this down. So once we have the problem, we then come to the aim. So what does success look like? Again, clarity is very important, but if we don't understand what success looks like, how are you going to get the right result from the model? You do not want to leave interpretation up to the model. It never works. And then we have S, which is steps. And I'm always shocked, even by CEOs, they have difficulty actually explaining the manual process to actually accomplish the task. And then we have S, which is stop signs. So just like you want to tell it what success looks like, you want to tell it what failure looks like. What can't the AI get wrong? And know your deal breakers before you start. So the problem here is I spend 4 hours every week writing follow-up emails to leads. Okay, the aim would be to cut that to 30 minutes with emails that sound like me. The steps would include read the lead's last message, check their business, write a personal opener, add my offer, keep it under 100 words. Stop signs would include emails that sound robotic, we do not want. Wrong names or details, obviously we do not want that. And anything I'd be embarrassed to send. Again, this is providing clarity around the problem, which leads us to tip number 2, where systems always beat prompts. Prior to having Claude skills, a lot of us would have to start from scratch always, and it got very annoying. Okay, and essentially that's what you're doing when you just solely rely on prompts, right? So model hoppers, or people who have a model first perspective, right, start from scratch all the time because they really don't have any foundation. And so people with systems just swap out the engine or the model, leading us to framework number 2, the race car method. Now, if you watch F1, very interesting sport, the teams don't rebuild the car when a better engine comes out. It would be very costly and frankly pointless. They swap the engine. Okay, the chassis, the wheels, the design, all stay the same. Your AI setup or workflow works the same way. Well, if you look at any system, just like a car, there's a few key things taking place. So inputs, what goes in every single time, your docs, your data, your standards, your SOPs. Write this down. Do not keep this in your head. And again, this is linked down below. And to make your life as easy as possible, because I know a lot of you aren't going to do this, you're going to come to File, you're going to make a copy, you're going to download, and then you're just going to move this into a Claude Chat or whatever LLM you use, and just get it to ask you a bunch of questions so it can just fill it out for you. Once you have inputs, you're going to need your process. So the steps in order. Each step has one job. This is your architecture. It never depends on which model runs it. So once you map out the process, you're going to move to step number 3, which is the output. What does done look like, right? A checklist, the result must pass before you use it. It's very important that you go through this checklist. This is probably the most important part because this really helps you identify whether this model is going to serve you or not, right? So a new model just dropped. Before you touch your system, ask, does it make any step in my process faster? Does it make any output better? So 2 yeses or more, swap it in. All no's, skip it. You don't have to worry about the hype of this model because with every model, as we know, benchmarks are changing. And so if, again, it's not applicable to your system, your workflow, then don't worry about the model and it's okay just to skip it. And so an example, imagine we're working on content, for instance. It would be my brand voice doc, 3 example posts, audience profile. It could be other written examples or whatever the case may be that you're trying to hone in on. The process would be feed inputs, draft the post, check against our voice rules, and I review and approve. Okay. And the output would be post passes the voice check, under 200 words, has a hook, sounds like me. So again, link down below for this doc. You're going to open up the doc. You're going to come to file. You're going to make a copy. You're going to download it, put it into Claude or chat. Then you're going to ask, walk me through these frameworks. Now that leads to tip number 3, and this took me a while to figure out, but eventually you start to realize that the bottleneck is you. And I know that might be hard to hear, but it becomes true because a lot of people who are saying AI isn't like me yet or can't really do what I want it to do, it's because, again, you're failing on a few key fundamentals. When results are bad or not as you wanted them, the limit usually isn't the AI, it's you. And so many of the time, even myself, I'm still getting in the way of AI. For instance, sometimes I don't fully understand the workflow or the business or the concept we're really trying to automate here. Or should we even go about automating? Is there something else we can do before even implementing AI in the first place? So ultimately, it just doesn't have your specific context. And so when you bring in your expertise or context to fill in those gaps, the same AI that just didn't get it now is the best employee on your team. So to have that happen, you want to go through the new hire test. Now, the way you want to do this is, could a smart new employee do this task with only the instructions that you just gave? If no, the problem isn't the model, it's the brief, okay? And a lot of the times, even SOPs fall flat because of this exact reason. There is a gap in communication or a lack of context. And the reason why this is so important is because if you think it's the model, this will actually prevent you from diving headfirst into AI. And so there's 2 sides to this framework. Number 1 is going back to problem clarity. And so you want to know your problem, right? Your business, your process, your standards. AI can't define success for you, as we touched upon the first framework. So that's your job. So you want to be, again, as descriptive and as clear as possible because you or someone within your team should understand the problem you're trying to solve. And just so you are aware, not everything right now needs to be AI. Okay, so then you want to know the tools, right? And again, you want to understand a bit of these models. That's why it's so important, because you don't want to use the wrong tool for the job. So you want to play to its strengths, and then maybe you can cover the weaknesses yourself. So for instance, your task, what should AI do? What stays with you? So once you have all that, you just want to rewrite the brief, okay? Because you'll be coming back to this document. So rewrite it like you're briefing a new hire. And again, before doing this process, you usually have something that's very vague and not helpful. After you go through this, as we can see here, write a follow-up email to a gym owner who downloaded my AI guide last week. Very clear, friendly, non-pushy, under 100 words. Mention one way AI saves gyms time. End with a question. Here are 2 emails I've sent that worked to provide more context to the model. Now, if you actually want to hear from someone building in the AI space that's generated over $1 billion in sales, watch this interview right here I did with Stefan Georgi as he tells you everything you need to know.